Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Marriage Talks. We have an excellent episode coming up for you. We had the pleasure of interviewing the co-founder of the Filter Off app. His name is Zach Schleien. We had an awesome conversation with him.
We did.
Yeah, he has some cool ideas, he and his co-founder, about some principles behind dating apps, and really goes for authenticity and just realness in interactions and stuff. And as you guys know, if you've been listening to us for any amount of time, we love that stuff. So realness and realness and authenticity, there you go, is the name of the game when it comes to real connections and having deep connections. And I keep saying connections, but deep relationships with your spouse and with others around you.
So we hope that you enjoy this interview. We've really had a great time talking with Zach.
Here you go.
Hey there, and welcome to Marriage Talks, a real, authentic, and relatable podcast about how to thrive in your marriage. I'm Elizabeth Ann.
And I'm Michael.
And today we have a really fun interview for you guys today. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
It's definitely new for us, and we are so pumped to introduce you guys to Zach Schleien. And before we get into the interview, though, we do want to give you a little background on him. So Zach Schleien is the founder of the video dating app Filter Off. Prior to Filter Off, he ran and sold the dating blog Top Rump, which covered dating hacks and apps for the millennial dater. His passions lie in technology, entrepreneurship, and health. When he is not working, Zach loves to travel the world, listen to podcasts, and work out. Hey, Zach, how are you?
Hey, Elizabeth. Hey, Michael. I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Yeah, we're doing well. We are so happy to have you here, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I was kind of reading up on you, and I was like, this guy is busy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm staying pretty busy with Filter Off, that's for sure. But appreciate you giving me the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So of course we're going to be talking. Want to let our listeners know we're going to be talking about the dating app Filter Off, and we just kind of want to let you guys know that this is definitely a little bit different subject matter for us, but we feel like it's really important to talk about because like when we were in the dating scene is different. And so I feel like this is a really great way to equip people who are in the dating world and they, might be overwhelmed. And so we felt like this was just a really good thing to talk about and to bring some light to. And so we're super excited to have you help us bring some light to Filter Off.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we would love for you to give us kind of the rundown of the way the app works for like a brand new user and kind of what they would expect.
Yeah, sure. So Filter Off is a video speed dating app available on iOS and Android. Basically how it works is you first create a profile and you'll see two panels. You'll see one that's for events and one that says matchmaker. The events, we run events based off your location. So we run location-based events and interest-based events. And these events are all virtual. So how it would work is you would confirm your attendance to one of an event, one or many. And once you're in an event, it queues you up. And once the event begins, we have your date scheduled and you join the date when the time starts. And you could video chat for about 90 seconds with your dates. And if you like them and they like you after the date, and it's mutual, you're entered into a match where you could then send messages or video messages. Then we also have a matchmaker feature, which takes into account your preferences. So for us, we want to create like really curated dates, and we give you 3 dates a week, and we allow you to chat with one another and to schedule your own video date. And works the same way. Instead of 90 seconds this time, it's 3 minutes. And if you like each other, you're entered into a match. So as you can see, it's a video first dating app.
That's cool.
That's really cool because that's a really novel approach to things. Because I think part of the problem is with the swipe culture, and of course, I'm just reading about it in here, and like we've got friends who are kind of doing different apps, and it's so quick and it's really impersonal. So when we were hearing about your approach to Filter, I was like, that's pretty cool. Like, it's hard to fake anybody out when you're on video. Like it's the real deal. Like, here I am. So I'm curious to see like how'd you come to the 90-second mark for the events?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty cool amount. I'm sure you guys thought about it a lot.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of people ask, like, why 90 seconds? Why not 3, 5 minutes? And the reason being is if you're in a bad date for 5 minutes, it's very uncomfortable. Yes, you could always end the call on filter off, but we want you to have the experience. And again, it's getting to really know the person versus just looking at a profile photo and swiping. And with 90 seconds, if you really like each other, it goes by in a flash.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you could then video message, you could always exchange numbers, now meet in person. So that's the rationale. We found that sweet spot to be 90 seconds. And then our curated dates in Matchmaker are 3 minutes because they're super curated. So we believe you'll have even a better experience. So we're more confident with the 3 minute mark.
Nice.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
when you were like a bad date being 5 minutes long, it'd be
It's
excruciating.
cringy. Yeah. It's painful.
Yeah, I think about just I've had a couple of like awkward dates where you're like,
You
you
can
know?
say it. Our first date was not so good. It was
Really?
Well,
kind
I
of a
was well,
disaster.
I was thinking before that, like before
Yeah.
we came into
We
each
knew what you
other's
were
lives
talking
where
about.
you're having that date and you're like, wow, this is long. Like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's
It's like kind
cool.
of like holding a plank, right? It's like the longest minute of your life,
Exactly.
but yet a
Yeah.
minute is very short doing something else. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's cool. The 90 seconds like you were saying, it just like it would come easy like if if you're like trying to match and you've got something to talk about, that will go by in a flash and then you'd want more
yeah,
time. But yeah, if it's awkward, you're like 90 seconds is enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
The goal is just to see if you vibe and you
Yeah.
have that chemistry. It's less about being on like a real date. It's more to see if you connect. And that's what filters off is all about, is enable you to find that authentic romantic connection. So
Yeah. I love that because we're definitely all about being authentic because we don't have time for fake stuff,
Yeah.
like that authenticity is good,
yeah,
because you really want to have that good connection. So I love that. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And you guys launched, was it earlier this year?
So interestingly, we launched about a year and a half ago. We were in beta, and then we got out of beta 1 month before the pandemic hit. So
Ooh.
kind of the right place at the right time, and yeah, and we really took off, and we were covering BBC, the New York Times, and now we're um, around the world, and we run cities around the world. So it's really it's been a ride, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are several businesses that you would not want to launch in the current climate, but it was kind of perfectly timed, like especially like in certain places, well, everywhere you couldn't go anywhere, so um, you got to connect somehow. I think we
Yeah,
found that too as we were like in the first full month in the house. You just crave that social connection. You just want to
yeah,
get with people, and having at least a video connection is
hmm,
definitely a step above other stuff. That's awesome.
definitely.
Yeah, it's funny you say you were in beta about a year and a half ago because I read an article and I was like, "Babe, no, I'm telling you, this has been around for like a year." Because the article stamp was March 2019, and he was like,
Yeah,
"No, no, it just launched." I was like, "I don't think people
yeah.
are gonna lie about this."
Yeah, it
So,
depends on the source, I guess, for the article.
well, I read that you're in New York City. Is it New York or New York City?
So my co-founder and I live in New York City. We started in New York City. Our biggest hubs are New York City, London, and then in the United States, LASF and Miami. Those are
Okay.
the biggest hubs right now
Awesome.
for us. Yeah.
And I read an article that said you hope to be in India soon. Is that right?
So yeah, we're in India. About 5% of our user base is out of India. Again, that's a pretty important culture for us, given they're very into family values, deep relationships, and that's what our app is all about: is create that connection at a very deep level. So
Yeah, I
that
love
fits
that
well.
because when I was reading up on all this stuff, I was like, it just really feels like the way you build that first impression and the video chat, like it really just filters out all the junk. Like just get to the meat of
Exactly.
it, the heart of it. And that's what I liked about that. I was like, well, if I was on a dating app right now, I was like, I would choose this one because I don't have time for all that mess. Like
Yes.
let's get past all that. So I love
Yeah,
that. That's really cool.
100%. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So when did you kind of first get the inspiration for Filter Off?
Yeah, so that was years back. And it really comes down to I've always loved dating apps, the ability to connect with someone romantically outside of your friend circle, like where you would never, ever meet. But what I quickly realized, they take a tremendous amount of time when it comes to swiping and browsing and then messaging back and forth. And then you don't know if it's going to work. And then you exchange numbers and then you finally meet. And then when you meet, it's often not a fit. So it's a very long process, a long funnel. And I was just sick of it. And I would go on these dates and just not vibe. And I was like, I wish I could just see if I could connect with them. And so I would ask, hey, do you want to FaceTime? And most women would actually say no because they were uncomfortable jumping on FaceTime with a stranger. And I was like, I want to create a culture, a technology where that's the norm. And that's kind of how Filter Off came about. And we've really seen, especially with the pandemic, the acceptance of jumping on video with a complete stranger has, people are now accepting it.
Yeah.
Less so before. So this pandemic has definitely sped up the acceptance and to jump on video in a romantic sense versus like a chat roulette style.
Yeah.
Right. And for people who aren't familiar with Filter Off, I was reading that you guys are taking a lot of good steps to making sure that things are secure and safe.
Yeah.
Because that would definitely be my concern. Like, okay, I'm getting on this, and then I'm getting on video with somebody. I tend to err on the side of caution, and so if you could just let us know some of the things you're doing to make sure that things are safe,
Yep.
so that you're trying to protect the users.
Yeah. So like user privacy, user safety is very important for us. So we have reporting functionality. If we get a report, we would swiftly take a user off the system. But to be honest, when people are on video, they don't have that like uber confidence versus like behind a profile where they're more willing to do shady things. But because on video, they're not, it's themselves. So you're not really seeing that. But from a privacy perspective, things are encrypted in transit and in storage. So data is encrypted in storage and transit. So it's, again, data and privacy, very important to what we're up to. And again, the goal of our app is just to connect people romantically, and that's what we're out to do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
That's awesome. You've definitely done your homework there. That's
Yeah.
cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. I was actually telling a friend of mine, I was like, we're gonna interview this guy named Zach, and this is what the app is, and kind of like giving kind of a little rundown. They're like, that seems so like, I don't know if I could do that. And I was like, but here, let me tell you the things that they're doing to make it safe. And so because I would definitely want to know those things to make sure that like I'm not jumping on some random thing and it's kind of like a wild, wild west of dating. Like, no, you guys are really taking steps to make sure that it's a good experience
Mhm.
across the board, which I think is great.
So do you guys have you've got all the markets that you're currently in. Anything on the horizon? Any specific cities that you're trying to push into at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing we're really focusing right now is this matchmaker service. Like we have events in these large cities, but what about the places where they're not massive cities and not a massive amount of users? We have this matchmaker service. So it's like super curated and creating these matches, again, video first. So just continuously making the algorithm better so you could get better matches. And that's what we're trying to do. So yeah, we're going really heavy now on Matchmaker to perfect that. So I think the product's in a pretty good spot. And then again, like continuous growth and awareness. So we're seeing all the major hubs. Those are like the major cities are the ones where most users are. So it's cool to just see it light up on our dashboard. But yeah, it's been a fun ride and a lot of growth. So it's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is your plan to eventually have it be everywhere in the US? Or are you kind of sticking to main hubs right now?
Yeah, so like I said, so the events are in the major cities. So we do have an event in Miami and New York, LA, SF, Chicago, and then some of the larger cities in London, things like that. But then like with Matchmaker, it allows those people that are not in the major hubs to also participate. So if they need to make their radius 50 miles, they could still match with someone. And again, like it's super curated. So it's based off your likability. It's based off of if you want to date a specific religion. So we get pretty specific. So as you can see, we have these events and matchmaker, and that's like a very like that's an offline experience. So our app is like the intersection between offline and online dating. We basically want you to feel like you're an experience that you're going on, where you have the first date jitters,
Yeah.
where you're being matched by an actual matchmaker. So like all these things, or you're attending an event, but all these things are virtual. And I think that's one thing that we're doing really well, where we that intersect. So it's been a really neat experience taking like offline learnings and bringing it to the virtual world.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I love that.
That's interesting.
That's
That's a
really
cool
cool.
point. Have you noticed being in different countries? Have you noticed like a big difference in interaction and feedback between like American, like and Indian culture and like in the UK? Like any big differences in terms of what people are experiencing, or just like specifically like willingness to do video chat, stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, one thing we have seen, like we now have global date nights. So like you can match with people around the world.
That's
And
awesome.
a lot of that came about from people being like, hey, I really want to use the app, but it's not available in my city. So there's people like in Malaysia, in India, we have people in Iran. Like it's unbelievable. And these are like a lot of these countries and did not think we would have users in these early beginnings. And it's like we didn't market in those cities. It's just kind of taken off. So it's really neat to see. And yeah, I mean, there is a cultural difference. I mean, we've been seeing people, like, I don't know, just in terms of gender ratios are different based off certain countries. Like, again, like acceptance of video. Some countries are a little bit more timid. In the United States, we're not seeing any type of challenges with men and women joining. So, but certain other countries where women maybe or men may be a little bit more timid, are less accepting. But again, that takes time and learning along the way. So
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. Globally matching. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I actually used it our global date night yesterday. I matched with one person in Malaysia, one from Iran, one from London, one from Texas. So it's like you meet these people around the world. And like again, the nature of the app, yeah, our goal is really to be more local, but if we could still connect people, and potentially romantically, if you travel to other cities, and like it's only a plus. So we want people to be able to use that, even if there may not necessarily be a ton of users in their vicinity.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That'd be really cool too, because like if you're planning a trip to London and you're wanting to meet some people and kind of like prepare for your trip, that'd be a great tool to kind of just match up there and just say, "Hey, go hang out, grab some drinks or something." Yeah,
That's awesome. I
yeah,
love kind of the broader picture. I love so when I was researching, I did a little deep dive on you.
Yeah.
And I just love how so of course one of your passions is in technology, which of course is app. And then just all the things that I saw that you were either involved in the past or some organizations that you help start. It's
Mhm.
all about people, and it's all
Yeah.
about that connection and interaction and being with that person and getting to
Yeah.
know them and really caring for people. And I love has I guess has your your excitement for like personal interaction and face to face, has that always been a part of you? Like, has that always been like the way you are?
Yeah,
Like,
I think it's a good question. I think deep connection is very, very important to me. And like as young as I remember, so when I was like 8 years old, I like my best friend Scott Miller, like we were super close, and I've always had these deep connections with like other guy friends, and that was always important. Like having these like best friends, and I could always, and they kind of are like different parts of my life who my best friend was, or like a group of close, very close guy friends. And that's always been important to me versus like not as deep connection. But I mean, even those connections are still important. I mean, friends you go out to party with, have a drink with. but the ones that you can have like a really good conversation and where you just know each other at a very deep level, it has always been important. So whether it's been with friends, with my family too, like I've always had a very close relationship. Like my dad, like my mom, she passed away and we were very, very close. And my dad now, we're very, very close. I've been sheltering in place with him and we've gotten much closer. So like all of those, that connection is super important to me. And I think, and tying it back to Filter Off, it's like text message just, it doesn't establish a relationship. Like it's nice to make plans through text. It's convenient. But when you want to like get to know someone and who they are, like the phone is like a step above, video is a step above that. And then like in person's the highest. But however, with in person, it takes a lot of effort sometimes to get to that person's place. And when it comes to a date, you may not know if you like them. So you may go on this date and you're not going to leave in 5 minutes. It's like a minimum an hour. So we feel like video is like right below that. So it's like, how do you be, so it's that sweet spot. Video we see as the sweet spot between allowing for authentic connection while also being efficient. So that's the mechanism right now that leads to the deepest connect. Obviously, it could be different in the future, but right now it just makes the most sense. So yeah, I mean, those types of relationships have always been fundamental to me, and I think it's expressed in the app.
Absolutely. That was like, as I was researching and doing my deep dive, I was like, I can see, I can connect all the dots and I love it.
Yeah.
I love
Nice.
how I love that. It's carried on into everything that you've done. And I love you're like speaking my love language. It's like being authentic and being efficient. I'm like, I'm here for
Oh
that.
yeah. Very type
That's what
A.
I want. So that's really cool. I love that. And I think too, um being authentic and also being efficient because people are busy
Yeah.
and we have, things that we go do and things that we're involved in or like, jobs kind of take up a lot of our time and maybe like doing the traditional dating is just like you said earlier, it just takes up so much time and then and then if you go on a first date and you're stuck there for an hour, it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
But
Opportunity cost.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
I love how you've kind of done a really great job of highlighting and bringing together kind of like a best way to make that happen for busy people, people who really want to have that connection, but also don't have like 6 free hours a day to do things like that.
And interestingly, the median age on Filter Off is 37 years old. So it does skew 30s. We have, like when I first started the app, I was like, oh, it's going to be super popular with college students. And I realized it was really popular, like 30 plus. They're just sick of dating apps, whether they're young professionals or maybe they've tried the other dating apps and they're just sick of them. And that's been interesting learning. And what's cool is we've been doing this now for over a year and a half. So like we understand what works, what doesn't work, and in the video space. It's been neat, like just kind of just seeing and making pivots. Like we're on version 7 of the app in the app store. So like it's not like we hit 100 coming out of the gate. Like we had to pivot. We had to figure out what that product fit was. And that's why we rolled out Matchmaker, because we realized like, hey, people wanted really curated dates, and where there are small cities where they just don't have enough people to run an event. So we've always been like, my co-founder and I have always thought about how do we build for like, whether it's, I mean, our vision, like what our goal is, but also like what's lacking in the current product. So just to make a more complete solution.
I love that. Yeah, because I think sometimes different apps just kind of get stuck in the way that they were originally created. And
Yeah.
then you just find that over time, like, well, this doesn't work anymore. Like maybe it was a great first draft, but I love how you guys are pivoting and improving and wanting to make it the best experience for users as possible. I think that's super encouraging.
Yeah. Zach, do you mind sharing any particular thing that you like thought originally was going to be a big deal and then, didn't pan out, like a feature or something like that?
Yeah, sure. So like we first started with like dating at like 7 o'clock, and everyone came on at the same time, and then it was felt like very like chat roulette. So we didn't like that. And then we did like 7 and 9 p.m. and you could choose the time you wanted, which was really cool. But then what started happening was people started requesting events, like religious organizations, companies. They're like, hey, I want to sponsor an event. I want my own private event. Like, for example, there's a Orthodox Jewish community that's like, we want our own private event just for our people to speed date one another. We're like, cool. We're like, how do we incorporate with the 7 to 9? Like, the experience seemed a little broken. So then we shifted all to events. And that was the transition to events to accommodate these private and sponsored events with filter off public events. And then from there, we're like, okay, events are cool, but events require lots of people. So how do we do it where it allows them to be super curated, doesn't require a major hub, and then we got into like the matchmaker. So it's been a constant progression and way of pivoting. But yeah, I mean, it's learning from the user is super important. So
That's cool. So you you mentioned that there was a group that wanted that specific event for them. Do you still kind of do that, or
yeah, so we have a number of religious organizations running private events. So you would need to put in a RSVP code to join that event. And we also have like some venues running private events. So like they've been closed, like clubs and stuff like that. So they're running private events for like their fans and people that come to that club. And they'll do like an Eventbrite page and they'll charge for tickets. And it gives their fans and like people that come to this club a way for them to meet other singles that are also really passionate about like that type of scene. So, and then we also have sponsors. So like we have a company that's sponsoring an event around like health. And then if you're like a healthy single and you want to meet other healthy singles, you join that type of event, and it's sponsored by a company. So they have their branding. So like we've really expanded events, and that's how we monetize from the B2B side. Is they could create a private event, a sponsored event, and it's kind of a win all the way around.
that is
That's really cool.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I
That's
like that too.
cool.
So I think you did a great job. Like your elevator pitch is
Thanks.
on point, man. It's really cool.
Well, I'm
Thank
sure
you.
you've given it a lot.
Yeah.
It's that repetition.
Yeah, this is actually my first interview though, discussing like matchmaker because that's fairly new. So like discussing both, it's like right, like I don't want it to come off as like too bloated, but they're very complementary. Like you join your events, like for example, the New York events are Wednesday and Friday, the Miami events on Friday. So you join an event, but then you could also use Matchmaker in between. But yeah, so it's like as we've added new features, my conversation has changed, which is kind of interesting, but it's helpful for me too, right? Just kind of sharing what it's about, what we're doing. But I appreciate again, like you both giving me the time to share it with your audience. So it's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we've loved having
absolutely.
you on. Like I said earlier, like this is interviewing because we've interviewed basically like friends,
Yeah,
who had their own podcast. But I was like, this is cool. Like
Yeah.
this will not only
thanks.
stretch us, but I think also help just bring to light just a really cool movement, in the dating scene and specifically filter off. Just like
I
I just
appreciate
think it's
it.
a really cool thing to bring light to because it can just be so frustrating, but I love
So
it.
are most of your audience, I assume, married, like
Well,
given the podcast and
it's funny because yeah, the majority is, but we have had a very vocal, like single users and listeners. In fact, some of the first like the first 5 comments I got were people who were single. I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I didn't
interesting.
really even realize that you know that was your thing. Like that it would be that interesting. I mean, I
Yeah.
think we're interesting, but
Yeah,
just with the name of the title and stuff. But when you go back to it and you think about it, like marriage principle, like the principles for a healthy marriage start when you're dating, and
yeah,
you
for
you should
sure.
pursue each other the same way, like year 10, year 50 of marriage, and the communication and just always trying to find out what's going on in your life. That's all foundational stuff. So
For
we've
sure.
had, we've been talking a lot more about like dating principles and stuff like that on recent episodes. So
And a lot of people, right, that are like, if you are single and you want to get married, you want like that role model who is
yeah,
like very happily married to understand like what they're doing so well.
We you know, we with our listeners, we share the good, bad, and the ugly, you know, like, and
Yeah.
so we want, like I said earlier, we want to always be authentic and to not
Mm-hmm.
have a smoke and mirrors act. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just love that that people who are single are looking to have kind of like basically practice, like you're taking these practice tests before the real thing comes along.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, if people are looking like having trouble finding someone and they try out filter off, like they're getting practice at doing the authentic connection thing, and they're really being intentional about presenting themselves instead of
Mm-hmm.
this like fake, like you were saying, being shady on a profile. Like,
Yeah.
no, just get rid of all that stuff. Let's just get straight to the heart of it. And so I think that's what I love so much about when I was reading up on everything that you're doing. I think it's just a really great way to find a good, happy middle of all the things.
yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well,
and
yeah. So let me know. I mean, and that's what got me excited about the events. It's less about the location based events, but like the interest based. So, like, if it was, for example, like your fans probably have a common value, right? Like some sort of similarity. It's like, I want to meet someone who has similarities to me. And that's why you attend like oftentimes people will find their significant other in school or at some sort of event that's it's based off a common interest, and that's why events are super cool. But yeah, so maybe your audience can meet one another and happily fall in love.
Yeah.
yeah,
I
But
love that. Yeah, we should so do that. Cuz like Michael said, we have had people reach out, and the most vocal are the single ones, and I'm like, "Yeah, way to way to prepare."
yeah,
I love
exactly.
it.
yeah, cool. So let me know.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
But
Yeah.
thank you both for
Hey,
taking time. And we also have a website, getfilteroff.com, which has the two iOS and Android, so they could just install from the website. If you could include that in the show notes, that'd be beautiful.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll make sure
absolutely.
to put all the things. Oh, what? So you guys know we'll put all the things in the show notes, all the
Cool,
links,
cool.
so you know where to go, what to do,
It's
all that good
awesome.
stuff. But we
Cool.
so appreciate your time chatting with us, and it was really great to get to know you and your heart behind Filter
Thank
Off and
you.
what you're hoping to accomplish. And we love it. We look
Yeah,
forward to
I
seeing what
appreciate it.
happens. We're gonna keep
yeah.
tabs on you. So
Thank you.
for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Well,
All right, Zach,
trying to
have a great
do
one.
cool stuff and connect a lot of people. So
Yeah.
thanks
Yeah.
for helping out with that.
man.
Absolutely.
You take care and have a good night.
Yeah.
You too. See you.
Bye.
We hope that you enjoyed today's interview with Zach Schleien, the co-founder of the Filter Off app. And before we sign off, I want to give you your challenge for today. If you're listening and you're single, because we do have single listeners, if you are single in the next 7 days, check out the Filter Off app. It has so many cool things to offer. It's just it sounds like a really, really great app if you are looking to date. And if you're listening and you're married, here's your challenge. In the next 7 days, be intentional about your face-to-face connections with your spouse. So at least once a day for the next 7 days, have one face-to-face conversation with your spouse. Be intentional about it, because it's very easy to get caught up in the day-to-day and literally never talk to your spouse. Never have an intentional conversation where you're connecting. So that is your challenge for this week. We hope that you enjoyed the interview. If you have not reviewed us on Apple Podcasts, we would love it if you would do that. And if you enjoyed this show, if you're listening and you're married but you have some single friends, pass this episode along to them so they can hear about Filter Off as well. Thanks you guys so much for listening. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you guys next week.